Anirudh Tiwari ji, Honorable FCD, dignitaries on the dais, and colleagues and friends present in the audience and on the call, senior mentors like Dhillon Saab, great to be in your presence. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I have 15 minutes, Tiwari ji, to speak, so we'll just try and give a perspective which is not the government perspective, to put it on record so you don't have to be embarrassed about what I'm going to say. So diversification is not only an idea, it is an unrealized dream. Dr. S.S. Johal presented two reports on the need of diversification in 1986 and 2002. Diversification is the most used word in speeches and presentations, most aspired in conversations, most elusive because no serious effort has been put for diversification of crops in the state or by the central government. I will take time and divide my speech into three parts: why the need for diversification, why it may not be happening, and lastly, how we may be able to achieve it, or what are the challenges. I will touch on some parts of it which I think are important, some things that have not been mentioned earlier. First, indisputably, the most sought after reason for diversification is depleting groundwater due to paddy cultivation and cereal surpluses that the central government faces. And that's why this call for diversification is the flavor of the season, because we've not had a back-to-back drought for many years, and we've not had a major drought in the last 5, 7, 8 years. So everyone is calling for diversification. What I personally feel the most important reason for diversification is loss of biodiversity. And it's something that I think is very necessary, not only loss of biodiversity, but also loss of varietal biodiversity in Punjab specifically. Because when we grow paddy, we grow most of it the same variety. When we grow wheat, we grow the same variety. And this is the greatest threat that I think Punjab faces, other than depleting water table, is the loss of biodiversity. And a lot of it, suggestions were given on this in the draft farmers policy, which hopefully the new government which comes in will adopt, I hope. And this is something that must be done. But for something like that to happen, we need a new matrix to measure growth. We need a new matrix to measure not just productivity as something that is valuable, but other parameters of farm ecosystem services. How do you value? If you're not able to create a matrix for valuing something, you will not be able to incentivize a particular activity. And that's one of the big things I think. So Niti Aayog is also lacking in. We are just focused on productivity. We are focused on self-sufficiency. We are focused on such goals, which takes us away from the longer vision. There is a direct correlation between areas of monoculture cropping of two crops and farmer suicides in Punjab. As you have more diversity of crops in Punjab, the number of suicides decrease. And I'll give you an example from my own village. I'm from Abohar, and in our district, we have very minimum less number of suicides, if no suicides at all, because we have cotton, we have citrus, we have other crops. We are not dependent on two crops, because when you're dependent on two crops, the man days of work that are being created is less than 130 per year. So diversification is not only important for biodiversity, it's not only important for depleting groundwater, it's also important to create more diverse, complex economies. If you go anywhere in the world, you will see it's complex economies that succeed. It is not economies that depend on one resource. Even if you have countries like Nigeria, which may depend on, let's say, oil, they also fail. Or Saudi Arabia, they're not succeeding, they fail in oil. So we need complexity of occupation. And that is one of the reasons that we need diversification in Punjab. Even on this idea of crop burning, pollution that we have been discussing, that we discuss seasonally as we are discussing diversification every 3 months of a year, every scheme of the government is going to fail if we do not have less paddy. And that is something that, again, does not come into consideration. It's already been mentioned that we need to build resilience. And when we design something for diversification, we need to look at livelihoods of people who are involved or dependent on agriculture. My most important argument for need of diversification, specifically in Punjab, because I'm only focusing on Punjab, is that the government of India thinks that we are a food secure country because we have overflowing granaries. I think nothing can be further from the truth. We are only food secure in India because most of the population cannot afford to eat a more nutritious meal. The way the government is working, I'm sure, where the central government is working under the leadership of the Prime Minister, I'm sure the economies will expand in time and we will hopefully reach our potential. When we move towards that target, we will not be able to grow enough nutritious food to even feed our own population, forget food security. So this hallucination that we are a food secure nation, I think so, is one of the greatest mistakes policymakers are making. And if you look at the hunger index, we are 101 on the global hunger index out of 116 countries. We were 116, I think. India slipped to 101st position in the global hunger index. We are behind Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Nepal. The ranking may be disputed. I'm not saying the ranking is correct. The methodology may be wrong, but it is representative of the fact that a large percentage of Indian population is unable to eat a nutritious meal. And that is one of the reasons why we need to diversify, is because that is the demand that is going to come in. Consumption behavior will change as economies expand and where people have more money. So this is one of the reasons why we need to diversify. On one side, consumption behaviors will change to more diverse, nutritious foods. And on the other side, climate change will impact us. Now, climate change, I have seen conversations in CIMET. PAU is here. You can, Dillon sir, note that. I've heard conversations in CIMET and World that as temperatures rise, yield of maize is rising because photosynthesis days will increase. I think so. These are all rubbish arguments. As a farmer, I can tell you from my farm that India can expect a drop in yields of 10 to 15% in its productivity with climate change. And wheat ka to, even if temperature rises by 1.5 degrees, I think so for a period of 15-20 days, we will have a shortfall. So I'm saying we are, as a country and as a state, in dire circumstances, and that is why we need to really look at diversification. And this is one of the important things that we should be looking at. So it's imperative for India to attain a higher level, of Dr. Chauhan, Mr. Chauhan, sorry you are here, but exactly for you, as the central government, for India to achieve a higher level of nutrition security, the government will have to fully support Punjab to diversify its cropping patterns. Not for Punjab's water, not for Punjab's biodiversity, but for India's nutrition security. The way climate is changing, where weather patterns are changing, there will be no drinking water available. Forget for irrigation. In central India, in South India, within 100 kilometers of Delhi today, in Rajasthan, in Sikar district, in Neemka Thana, I've been traveling there for the in the last week. There is a drinking problem even today, and it's not mentioned. So I think the need for diversification is Punjab's need, but it is even more important for India to fund this. And I will come back to that, later in the conversation, I'll come back why it is required. Because see, Punjab is financially constrained. It will not be in a position to share costs. So if the central government comes up with a scheme like Bhavantar Yojana or some price support scheme where Punjab government is to give 40% of MSP and central government will give 60%, this will remain on paper as it has remained in the past. So let's be pragmatic. Let's look at it with a point of view of delivering, not with a point of view of scoring points, central government scoring points over and coming out with schemes which look very good on paper but don't deliver. The governments work in silos. The central government's priorities differ according to the drought, like I mentioned earlier. Many years of no drought has this conversation on diversification. It was never there when we had a drought and we had a inflation problem in 2008, 2009, 2007, 2010. That's the time they were giving us bonuses. They were giving us money to pump more water out. And Punjab has been delivering on central government. This conversation is not for people in Punjab. I think everybody in Punjab knows about it. Mr. Chauhan, this is a conversation for the central government, specifically for Niti Aayog. Punjab has delivered on central government directives and policy incentives for generations. From my grandfather's time, we have delivered. And it is now time for the central government to help a transition, which is going to be very painful for Punjab, very painful for farmers of Punjab. And without addressing that pain in that transition, this transition is not going to be possible. Punjab government also, I don't think so, would want to diversify, Anurag Tiwari ji, because there is in the sense that so much minimum support price money is coming to farmers, it's 60, 70,000 crore rupees, the government gets revenue, so obviously the incentive is not there to diversify in a way that revenue will reduce. So that also needs to be addressed by the central government. The enactment of the 3 farm laws, their withdrawal, has left a huge trust deficit between the central government and farmers. And Punjab is in, and the political capital of the central government has been lost to enact very bold steps which are required for diversification, and that is why the bill of diversification for the central government will be far higher than it would have been if the trust was available and they could take farmers along with them. We have botched up the program to stop burning of crop residue. And this is, and why I'm giving this as an example is because everybody realizes that we must not burn crop residue. The central government realizes it, the state government realizes it, the farmers realize it, the farm union leaders realize it. But even when there is an idea which is acceptable to all, an idea on which everyone agrees, does not mean that everyone will agree on how to go forward and make that step, logical transition possible. And that is why this is very difficult. I'll take another few minutes, but when Anirudh Tiwari ji farmers get on stage, then they don't get off very early. You have seen that on Delhi borders. You know, it's not easy to get them off. Long ago, Dr. Kalkat ji, former chairman Punjab State Farmers Commission, had reached a conclusion that small and marginal farmers will not adopt new crops for replacement of wheat and paddy unless they are assured marketing for their produce. And this, I think so, is something that is paramount at the center of a diversification program. Many unions, newspaper columnists, academicians, economists have suggested that a legal MSP will lead to diversification. My personal assessment is that it will not lead to diversification. It may actually solidify or make sure that paddy and monoculture cultivation continues because there is no comparatively profitable crops. So what can replace paddy if you look at maize, groundnut, moong, cotton, bajra, arar, soybean, guar, sesame, whatever. These crops are there, MSP is there. Even if the central government assures an MSP where the state government doesn't have to pitch in, still they are not comparatively profitable to paddy. And farmers don't grow crops because they are profitable. Let me tell you as a farmer, we also grow crops looking at the risk profile of a crop. See, when I grow paddy or wheat, the chances of it suffering a productivity loss is very limited because of the nature of the crop itself, because of availability of water. So it's not that much dependent on weather, and that is one of the reasons Punjab did not adopt the crop insurance program of the central government, which was absolutely detrimental to Punjab's interests. And that is a different topic. The Farmers Commission gave a report to the government on creating a compensation fund, which would be funded by the commission that goes to the RTRs. And I would still suggest to the central government that the commission that you give to the RTRs for procurement, that some part of that funding should be taken away from them and given to a crop compensation fund to the government of Punjab to create a fund. And because of political pressures, it never happened in the past. I hope these things can also be mentioned in the report. The other is that if you look at world economies, most countries trade with the neighboring countries. If you look at European Union, they trade amongst themselves. If you look at North America, America trades most of its trades with Mexico or with Canada. You come to India, we don't get along with anyone. We don't trade with Bangladesh. Bangladesh does not take my citrus. It has a 40% duty on it. India has failed diplomatically by abusing Bangladesh in the parliament. They increase the duty on citrus. So I'm just saying, diplomatically, India has not succeeded in engaging with its neighbors in a way that trade can flourish. And Punjab, being a landlocked state close to Pakistan, has suffered because we have not succeeded in making Pakistan understand positively to engage with us and for various other political reasons. And I think that needs to be factored in for Punjab's diversification. We have huge markets in Central Asia, in Afghanistan, in Pakistan. In fact, I've said this again at PAU earlier when Hamid Karzai Saab had come from Afghanistan to address that Kabul is closer to Amritsar than even, I think so, Bhopal is. Central Asia is closer to us than Indore or Bombay is. So we have lost huge markets for diversification because we are denied access or because of India's diplomatic positions or our inability to engage with our neighbors or in our continent in areas. So I think the central government must factor that in to compensate us. If the central government says we have a one shoe fits all policy for all of India's diversifications, then best of luck to Government of India. It's not going to work. The other part of diversification is, and Anuruddh Tiwari ji, I'll take 2-3 more minutes. The other part is that no crops should be allowed to land on Indian shores, which are less than the fair and remunerative price that farmers need to get to diversify. अभी मूंग का MSP 6,000 हो और आप विदेश से 5,000 का लैंडिंग कॉस्ट करोगे तो कहाँ से डाइवर्सिफिकेशन होएगा? हो ही नहीं सकता है. We're just fooling ourselves, you know. So the idea of giving priority to food inflation at the cost of farmer livelihoods is one of the reasons that diversification in India will not take place. So this is another point that needs to be mentioned. Many are discussing that Punjab can become an export hub. Even I have been discussing that. In the present circumstances, I think it's another pipe dream. We've got to focus on quality, not on quantity. As consumer consumption behaviors and patterns are changing, we need to focus on quality. I would suggest to Government of Punjab to fill all staff positions in agriculture, in animal husbandry, for extension, focus on pesticide residue. A new director agriculture is here. We are very proud of him. I think he'll do a wonderful job. At the Farmers Commission, we had started, nahi ji, hum ek aapko target de rahe hum with appreciation, is that we had made a policy, we'd made a paper, we'd worked on it for 2 years, we could not, I don't know where it stands today, is that all pesticide and fertilizer sales in the state should be reported on state government servers every day. I went and talked about this to Sanjay Agarwal ji also, that the central government should adopt it, because that is how you will change agriculture. That is how we will get into these risky crops. And I hope Punjab government would focus and work on that. Even PAU has not been able to meet expectations of Punjab, and that is for financial reasons also, in the sense that Punjab Agriculture University needs more financial support, and I think the central government should also pitch in to do that. It's one of our premier institutions, and I think it will be able to do it if it's given enough finances. Fisheries, animal husbandry provide a great future. Animal husbandry provides a great future, and these are things that we should be focusing on. Specifically for Punjab, I have a suggestion on milk. I think if we are able to stop sale of spurious milk and milk products, price of milk for Punjab farmers can go up by rupees 2 or 3. You know, these are governance issues. These are not policy issues. And for the central government and Niti Aayog, I would want to say, everywhere you will read, Kurian Saab ka bhi centenary bhi tha, that Amul is a great success story. Manjeet Bradji will know, he was at MilkFed. Amul is a success story because government of Gujarat has supported it 100%. They do not allow competition to Amul in Gujarat. They do not allow private players to come and procure from Gujarat. So any diversification, any success story, any transformation has to come from government support. Let us not say markets will make that difference. And so, Anuruddh Tiwari ji, I suggest for Government of Punjab, we tried to do it earlier, there was no reception to our Farmers Commission call, is that we must set a price below which no private enterprise, no cooperative, including MilkFed, will be able to buy milk. Institutions will not be able to buy milk below a standard price. So which sets the floor price? It's not like a minimum support price, it's a minimum procurement price. Individuals can buy and sell it at a price below, but institutions will not buy. And I think if we set that price, Punjab will gain, but the price will rise up by 2 or 3 rupees, and other organizations like MilkFed and all will be able to come, and they'll be forced to buy from here because of the quantity and concentration of milk available here. You know, what everyone says private sector will make a difference. What does private sector do? When the price of milk crashes, they walk out of the market, MilkFed is forced to pick up all the stock. When the price of milk rises, private sector comes in and they buy when they want. So in a way, MilkFed has become the insurance policy for the government of Punjab. So I'm just saying these are things, depending on private sector, getting private sector on board is important, but getting the private sectors to sit on the policy table, as has been happening, is wrong. There's a big difference. Taking advice from private sector is one thing, getting them on the policy table is the other part. Let me come to MarkFed. I think This was one of the recommendations of the Farmers Commission in the initial months that we joined, that Markfed should get out of FCI procurement, for FCI. Its original mandate is only for marketing of produce for farmers. And that it is not doing for various reasons. I don't want to officially talk about it while I'm on the stage, but we need to focus Markfed on procurement. The government of India, I talked to Sudhanshu Pandey also on this, and he was in agreement in the Ministry of Food, that, declaring an MSP may not be enough. So Markfed could be funded by the central government to set up, edible oil plants, and they contract with farmers to procure at minimum support price or a little higher price. And the central government gives a viability gap funding to Markfed to sell that oil under its Sona brand, gives it a 5-6 year viability gap funding. The central government does give viability gap fundings for public sector units. These needs to be extended. So you need to create a value chain. Just announcing something is not going to make a difference. So if you go into depth, I think lots of other things are possible. Any transformation will lead to winners and losers. In this diversification, in the short term at least, maybe if the transformation is good, everyone will gain in the long term. In a short term diversification, I think so Punjab will suffer maximum in this country, and that needs to be addressed, as I said earlier. I think, like I said earlier, expecting Punjab to allocate resources for this diversification would not be right and would not lead to any positive results. But at the same time, I think giving money to Punjab to diversify would also not work because of capacity in the sense not of its ability to do, because of political pressures and other concussions that come. So I really think there needs to be a transition commission, which is headed by, let's say, someone like Dr. Ramesh Chand, under whom a transition commission is there, and 5,000 crore rupees a year is allocated for 6 years for Punjab's transformation. And that money is released by this transition commission on plans proposed by government of Punjab, specifically on a transition, because this transition can't be for 1 or 2 years like crop burning and then it fails. But I think it is possible. And 5,000 crore rupees is not a lot of money. There's so many officers here, don't mind it, but when the central government gives the 7th pay commission, the state government agrees to it. It's over 1 lakh of crores and every year is going. So 5,000 crore rupees to assure India's nutrition security, to assure Punjab's diversification is a very, very small amount of money. And Anurag Tiwari ji, I would also take your consent on this to propose to the Ministry of Agriculture and to Niti Aayog that should such a commission be made, we must get people like Balwinder Sidhu, who has now retired, to be on that transition commission to help design and assess programs that are coming in. I mean, this is something we need to look at it without any bias or without anything. India needs a food systems policy. It does not need a diversification policy. And a food systems policy is very difficult. As a Bharat Krishak Samaj, as a farmers organization, we are trying to make one, and we do not have the financial resources. We are finding it difficult to raise financial resources to make a food systems policy. I raised this with the finance minister last year also, and lots of government departments sitting in that meeting said we can make a food systems policy. I do not think the government of India has a capacity to do it because it needs to be a multi-stakeholder policy. The other thing that is required for diversification is for the central government and for Punjab government not to make policy dependent on foreign consultancy firms. This whole idea कि हम एक consultancy firm को hire कर लेंगे and they will come up with a policy and that policy will save India from the mess that we are going into, I think so is disastrous. We have seen it happen, and this is nothing to do with the present government. This has been the tendency of the last 20 years I've seen. We must build capacity of Indian farmer organization, Indian institutions, Indian agriculture universities. We must fund them to do it. It's not that it cannot be done. Just because somebody comes from outside India doesn't mean they have sense. They mainly do copy-paste. I've seen it happen with reports they've submitted to the Punjab government. They have been really, I think, really a bad investment. And they have actually led to a lot of problems. So I would say let's not look at this diversification policy. Let's not get any foreign consultancy firms When you look at a diversification policy, let's not get any private sector food processing industries on the table. We invite them for consultations, we take their ideas, but it has to be the government of India. It's public goods and it's common goods we should look at. And I want to end by retelling a story. Anirudh Tiwari ji, aap ye story sune meri. And it's not something that I have made up, it's something that I heard and I want to just retell it. There were two very intelligent persons. One was a nutrition expert and one was a marketing expert. Now let us say that they are representative of the central government and the state government. So both decided that we can make an animal feed, which is the best animal feed in the world. And this animal feed and the marketing the person said that I know how to market and I'll market this feed and we will be the success story of, we will have a startup and a success story. So they formulate the most nutritious animal feed possible. The marketing expert markets it so well. But what they realize after 2 months is that nobody is coming in for repeat orders. You know why it's not happened? Because the cattle don't want to eat it. So, and that cattle is the farmers. So the central government and the state government together make a diversification policy where farmers are not on the table, that diversification is not going to happen. I would want to end with that story that if you want a diversification, get farmers on board. And fortunately, unfortunately, farmers are of many types, and with different agroecologies, different experiences, different perspectives. So I would want to end there, and I would want to say that Punjab has secured India's first 50 years of food security. For Punjab to secure India's next 50 years of nutrition security, the central government will have to fund that transition 100%. There's no two ways about it. We have waited 40 years for this cherished dream. Hopefully, under your committee, I think so we will achieve that. Thank you so much for your time and patience.